Sarah Walton, it is such a pleasure to welcome you today to the Divine Union podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be with you. We were just saying, like, I just adore you, and you're one of my favorite people to spend time with. I love this.
Thank you, Sarah. I adore you so much. I cannot wait for you to share your wisdom with our audience because money is not a topic that
Mm,
we've spoken about on the podcast. And it's an area that's tied to all of our lives.
mm.
And so I'm really excited for you to share your wisdom to help everyone come into greater relationship with money. And so to
Yeah.
get us started, I would love for you to share a bit about your journey. What got you into this work of business coaching and helping people live in greater abundance and
Mm.
thrive?
Gosh, ain't that the question though? I mean, thank you so much for one, for this question, and two, for giving me the opportunity to talk about money with the audience because, you know, money is so interesting. It's the one thing we use all day, every day. And nobody talks like, do you know how much your friends pay for the interest rate on their mortgage? No. Do you know how much people are saving? No. And it's like one of the most valuable, important tools we have access to today. And we don't talk about it. And so my goal really during this entire conversation is to like, let's lift the taboo because that's actually what keeps it out of the hands of people is this fallacy, this illusion that we don't get it or we can't work with it. And that is just inaccurate. Nothing that you need to know about your money takes you past like third grade math. Nothing. Nothing that you need. It's not tricky. It's not hard. People try to make it hard, but it's not. So I just wanted to preface with that because I'm so honored and excited that this is what we're going to talk about because it makes such a profound difference in people's lives when we lift this illusion of, taboo off this subject. It's just not. It's been made that way. It's a total lie. Don't believe it. All right. So why do I do this? You asked me. Yes.
Yeah, you're already blowing my mind, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Well, you could tell how much I love it, right? But the reason it's so important to me is because I was raised in poverty. I mean, real poverty. When I say we didn't have money, people are like, yeah, but what does that mean, white girl? I'm like, I get it. I know. I feel you. But like literally there would be times where we'd have a half a loaf of bread that my mother had made from scratch, and a jar of honey. The end. Like no ketchup, no mustard, like the end, right? That was it. And it was really hand to mouth. Like literally there were times I thought having bread and milk was a normal breakfast cereal. I didn't know. I mean, things like that. Like that's literally how we ate and how we took care of things. And when I was around 5, I was watching a PBS special. You know, when PBS used to do fundraisers, we love you, PBS. Thank you for your fundraisers. And they had on the Nutcracker Ballet, and it was exquisite. And I did not know what this was that I was seeing, but I remember turning to my mom and being like, Mama, I want to do that. I don't know what that is, but I want that. And obviously, we didn't have money for dance lessons, right? So I would do what I could as much as I could. I would try to look things up. We didn't have the internet because I'm 150 years old. So we didn't have the internet, right? And so I learned really how to dance by watching MTV. So Janet Jackson, thank you. Paula Abdul, thank you. Right? I can throw a
Yeah.
chair or dance with a cartoon mouse like the best of them. I so appreciate you, ladies. Thank you. And one of my biggest dreams during this time was to be on the high school dance team. I was raised in a little town called Sandy, Utah. It's outside of Salt Lake City. And that was a big deal in my little tiny town, right? And if the name Sandy sounds familiar to you, some people go, wait, why do I know that? There's two reasons. One, it's where they filmed the series Big Love. And two, it's where Elizabeth Smart was taken from. These are my claims to fame of my childhood. I'm so sorry. That's like literally where I grew up. So people are like, why do I know that? I'm like, you can forget the associations. Anyway, not a whole lot going on. And being on the high school dance team was a really, really big deal. So it came time for tryouts. I worked so hard. Like I remember the Janet Jackson knee pops. Like I could do all of it. I was so excited. I was very sore, but I tried out and I made the dance team and I was ecstatic. Like this was my first lifetime goal, right? I'm 16 now. I've wanted this since I was 5. That's my whole life. Right? And so I'm like so thrilled. And my neighborhood was really tight. I was raised in a really tight, pretty religious community. And people were bringing me a rose, like, congratulations. Like, the word got out that I had made the team. And then we got a letter. that outlined how much it was going to cost to participate in this team. And Nicola, I don't know if you've ever had a moment where you like pull out of your own body and watch yourself go through something. You're like, wow, she's having an experience right now. But that's what it was like in reading that letter. Like it was the jacket, it was the shoes, it was a unitard because it was the early 90s. Don't tell anyone. Right. The socks, the what are they called? The competition fees. I'm like, what are those fees? The competition fees, right? All this stuff is on there. And I'm looking at this and I feel like my stomach just drops through the floor. My hands got sweaty. My mouth went dry. And it was like, I can't, what, there was no way. And so this was my first experience with stuck, right? And I know you're surprised. I was very frisky. And I went and got a job at the mall. And if you don't know what a mall is, go watch Stranger Things. But like I got a job at the mall and I was working at this little cart, this little kiosk where I would sell tchotchkes nobody needed, but you know, late 80s, early 90s, it was cool. Everybody bought everything. And so I was doing that and it came time to cash my first check. And I was so excited because it was enough for the deposit on my dance costumes. And I was like beside myself with joy that I had done this thing. Now, I didn't have a bank account, right? I'm 16 years old. I don't have a bank account. And so, you know, my mom takes me to the local grocery store. And in the grocery store, there's like a service kiosk where you can cash checks and do stuff like that. So I take my check, I'm going in to cash it. And as we're walking into the store, my mom has my younger half brother with me and me. And she says, Sarah, the strawberries are on sale. Can we get some? Now, if you're a therapist, I know your brain just exploded. That's a whole other podcast. But I think of my costumes and I think of the strawberries, right? And I'm like, yes, we can do both. And I'm so happy, right? So I go get my check cash. They go to get the strawberries. And now I have my money in my hands and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it. And I go to find them in the express checkout aisle and they're not there. And I'm looking up and down all the aisles and I see my mom in line with a cart full of groceries. And it's a cart full of groceries I know she can't pay for. And I'm looking at the food in the cart, right? The damn strawberries are there, right? But there's bread for my brother's lunches and lunch meats and his favorite breakfast cereal and milk. And I'm standing there. And for the first time in my life, I'm up against, I can buy something I've wanted for myself forever, or I can take care of my family, but I cannot do both. And I made a decision right then and there in my own life. I can't do both. And I lived that out. I was the first woman in my entire family. I have like 65 cousins, so it's not a small family. The first woman in my family to get a college degree. As soon as I could leave Utah, I did. I lived in France for a while and then I moved to New York City. Like, let's go. I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I have this amazing team. Right now, I'm married. I have 2 kids. Like, life is shining bright and I'm freaking miserable. And I'm sitting there in my corner, my beautiful corner office with a little ficus tree in it, the whole thing, right? And I'm listening to the clock in my office tick away the seconds of my life. And I'm devastated. I haven't seen my kids. You know, I get to see them in their pajamas every once in a while. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there in my office in New York City and I'm like, a 16-year-old girl is running my life. A 16-year-old girl said I couldn't take care of my family and myself. So my family has a lot of money and I'm always sick and I'm always miserable and I hate this job. And I worked with wonderful people. I was so grateful to have that job. Like I loved the people. I hated the work. And as I sat there, I decided that I didn't want a 16-year-old to run my life anymore. And here I was, I'd been the only woman in all of these executive rooms in the C-suite. I'm the only one in the room that's a woman. And I'm like, why? We're working on financial projections. We're working on the company culture. We're working on where we want to go. And I'm like, this is 4th grade math. Why am I the only woman in here? Even if it was senior level calculus, why am I the only woman in here? Like, what is going on? And I realized women are left out of a lot of conversations when it comes to business, despite the fact we are excellent at it. And so that day, I left my corporate job and decided I was going to teach women what I had learned through street cred in that job. Well, the many jobs that I'd had up to that job. But why would I not teach this? Because I never, ever want a woman who can hear my voice, a woman who knows I exist, a woman who's like watching my free YouTube videos. I don't even care, right? I don't want any woman who's in my vicinity to go through what my mother must have gone through that day. what I went through that day, I'm just not doing it. It's not happening, not on my watch. And that's what my motto is. I put more money in the hands of more women. And obviously I don't do that. I'm not there handing it out, but I'm teaching everybody how to deal with it. It's not scary. It's not that big of a deal. We've intentionally been left out. And when I talk about this, people go, but Sarah, what'd you do that day? What did you do that day? Did you buy the costumes? Did you buy the groceries? And I don't mean to leave it out, but that day I did buy the groceries. And what really helped me understand the power of money in the hands of women is one of my friend's mothers, this part can make me cry, heard what had happened. And she paid for my costumes. And in 2018, I went back to Utah and held a conference there. And I got to bring her up on stage with me and thank her publicly, because had she not shown me what happens when women have money, if she hadn't helped me through that, I don't think I'd be here today. And it was so beautiful to get to thank her and to have everybody get what she had done with money and how it was affecting them, because I could now teach them. And it was like this massive ripple effect. And I was crying and she was crying. And like, people know this story. It's known as my grocery store story. And I got to say in that moment, this really happened. Here's the person I've been talking about all this time. She's here with me. And what was so beautiful is she passed away in 2020. And I cannot believe I got lucky enough to have her come up publicly and be able to share that story with her in the room as the person who pivoted my life. And I think, to go back to why I think it's so important we talk about money, I know there's somebody listening who's like, wow, nobody ever talked to me about money like that. Nobody ever talked about it as this joy-filled, amazing thing that isn't taboo at all. In fact, why aren't we all talking about it? Why wouldn't we share about it? Why wouldn't we help each other's children get dance costumes when the family can't afford it? Why are we not talking about that? And understanding that there's a community, there's a world, there's a flow of money that's constantly, I mean, just in the time we've been talking, Nicola, like trillions of dollars have changed hands. It's always around. It's totally here all the time doing its job. And we act like it's mysterious. It's fascinating. So I hope I answered your question.
This is so good. I'm still taking it in. I'm moved by the story. And you've got me wondering, like, what is the key? What is the key, Sarah, to abundance and living? Because you speak, I love this share, and I would love to hear what shifted for you when you're sitting in the corner office with that FICA tree and like wondering why aren't more women up here, but also you're feeling miserable, and that you said that 16-year-old is running your life. So I'm so curious what shifts and how you relate with money and how we relate with money. What guidance do you have for if it's someone listening who's, whether it's even male or female, who's in a job where they're working really hard, but they're miserable, or if it's someone who can't manifest, and maybe these are two different answers, so you can hone me and guide me, but maybe if it's someone who can't manifest the abundance, what is the key in finding that balance?
Yes, that is the question, isn't it? I mean, it so is. And I always say, people like, they're listening to me, I'm like, that's great, Walton, but I can't pay my electric bill, right? Like, I totally get that. That can happen to people. Or, it's a really bad time. You do run a business and it's a tough time for you. You've hit this wall and things aren't moving the way they were before. And you're like, what's happening? So a couple of really tangible, totally free things you can do right away. This is taking advantage of what we coaches, right? We all talk about it, but your reticular activating system, which is a very fancy way of saying what you tell your brain to focus on. So our subconscious mind is always looking at everything. It knows everything. And we know this is true. Like, there's been so much data, so much science. This is not woo woo. This is actually science-based. Like, if you've ever had an allergy test, right? Or let's say you're being tested for celiac, sometimes they'll put something with gluten in this hand, in your right hand, right? And something that doesn't have gluten in your left hand. Your subconscious brain knows so much. It knows which hand the gluten is in, and that hand won't be able to take pressure. Right? These are real tests that medical doctors do, right? Because the subconscious brain knows everything. Now, the conscious brain, if it were to know everything, would short circuit and we'd all be like, running around like we just stuck our finger in a light socket. Not helpful. Hence the reticular activating system, RAS. That's what we all call it, is that system says, okay, awesome, subconscious, thank you. You've got that. What do I need to focus on? And you can literally program it to focus on anything. And when I first say that, people go, no, you can't. I'm like, okay. Have you ever decided you wanted to buy a car? This is always my favorite example. Like, let's just say you decide you want a white Toyota. I don't. And all of a sudden you go out and what do you see freaking everywhere? You see white Toyotas everywhere. Did the dealership hear you and they just released a whole bunch of white Toyotas in your path? No. Your brain started to focus on where they were. That's all that happened. And that's how powerful that is. But we've all seen this happen. We've all had that experience. Like, kind of, I never saw anyone with red fingernails before. And then boom, you're going to see 8 people today with a red fingernail. You're like, oh, what just happened? Right? Your RAS has been focused. And so what I'm going to teach you to do right now is to focus on abundance. So let's say you are sitting in a job you hate. Let's say you're at the gym right now listening to this and you're like, I don't want to go in. Oh my God, I don't want to go in, right? The things that I love to tell people do is, first of all, put your feet flat on the floor, no matter where you are, unless you're driving. Please keep the one foot on the gas or the brake, and wiggle your toes. Just wiggle your toes inside your shoes. That's all you need to do. And all of a sudden, what that does is it pulls you into your body and you recognize you're actually safe right now. You're not, you don't want to go to work. I got it. You have a bill to pay. The business isn't going, blah. Wiggle your toes. Just be here with me right now. And you can do this anytime. You can do it in meetings when you're nervous. You can do it when you're being interviewed on a podcast. Nobody knows, right? Like you can wiggle your feet, wiggle your little toes inside your shoes or on the grass if you're able to be outside. So that's step number one. And then step number two, I want you to find the spaces around the objects you're looking at, right? So for me, if you're watching this, right, like you could see the tree over my shoulder, you could see the chair over my other shoulder, right? What's in the space around my head? Don't focus on that, right? And like I can see my camera. So if I don't focus on the camera, I can see the space on either side of my camera. If I don't look at the light, I can see the space. Why would we do that? Because that's actually where abundance is. There's so much space and we don't even notice it because we're focused on objects when the abundance is actually in the space. And to take that a step further, what you're doing is you're training your mind, literally, think of the white Toyota, you're training it to see opportunities that you didn't see before. That's why this practice works. You're just looking for space. And what will happen today is you're looking for space is someone will send you an email and you'll be like, oh my God, finally a great project. Or I don't want to be on that project. Do you want this project? And you just made more space for yourself. Or if you run a business, my favorite question is always, what would be really fun today in the business? Now you've got space. You've got a whole new opportunity to look at things differently and see how you can shift things because you're playing in space. You're not playing in what is. Because there's so much more going on than what we see. We just don't focus on it. And then the last thing you can do if you're still not feeling abundant.
Let me just, how do you
Yeah,
make
go
that?
ahead.
Let's continue to make that tangible also for me to get. I would love to tease it out even more with the
Hit me.
space. So if someone's can't find ways to, let's say it's newer entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches are in my world. I'm a coach. Let's say you're working in your business, yeah, trying to find space to bring in more revenue in the business, trying to find space to bring in new opportunities. How, yeah, I would love for you to give a few more examples with this
Yeah.
focusing on the opportunity and not the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, if you want to get uber tangible,
Yeah.
which I love to do in business, is I always tell people like figure out exactly how much you want to make this year or this month, whatever, pick a thing, right? And figure out how many people do you actually have to work with to make that money. And I know for me, right, to hit my revenue goals, it's like 80 people a
Mm.
year, right? It's like not that many. You know what I mean? It's like cool, right? And if I hit that out of the 330 million people that are only in the United States, I can do that. That's a tangible way to be like, oh, out of all this space, I need 80. A lot of people will end up being like, I need 20. I'm like, 20 people.
Mm.
Go reach out to them right now. Like literally go back to basics. Go back to basics. And then in finding that, not only in that, like how many conversations do you need to have a day? You need to know those numbers. Again, just going back to the numbers. So I know if I want to work with 80 people, about 8,000 people need to know I exist. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. Right. And if you're only needing 30, it's only 3,000. Most people have that many followers if they combine all their social media, right? Not to mention your newsletter list, which I encourage people to spend more time on, right? There's all these different ways you can find these people. Like this idea that this is hard is an illusion. Doesn't mean you won't have to work. And it doesn't mean you won't have to tap into that space. Get yourself grounded, wiggle your toes, look at the space. And the best question is, you know what would be really fun? The best question you can ask. Because I truly believe when we're living inside of abundance, when we're living inside the space, we're not trying to confine ourselves to objects, but instead we're looking outward. It's a blast. And it takes all the pressure off of sales. It takes all the pressure off of what should my copy say? And then it all just goes away. And you're like, dude, I am here to do this thing. Who's in? And now it's like a party and it's so much more fun. You got to know your numbers. I know 8,000 people have to hear me every year. On it. Got it. No problem. Right. And then I have a blast. What would be a really fun way to run into 8,000 people? Oh my God, let me think. I love being a guest on podcasts. Oh my God, I love being on stages. Oh my gosh, I have like 3 friends who are in corporate jobs, and I know there's people in those jobs who want to run their own businesses. I'm going to see if they're running a conference soon. Have fun, like play with it. And I think the other mistake so many people make is the doom scrolling. Like, I really think that matters. You know, if you spend 3 hours a day on your phone, in the course of your lifetime, it's 10 years. I mean, that makes me want to vomit. Get off that thing. Like, stop. Don't go there. Where are your people? And I'll give a great example. I really love this. I had a client who's a podiatrist, and you know, she was like, I'm gonna have to close up. I can't find, I'm asking all the moms, can they refer someone? And I'm like, nobody wants to do that. I mean, I love you, but no one wants to be like, hey, do you have foot problems? I know a lady. Like, what? No. Let's go to where your people are and give them a free sample, just like they do in Costco. I always make jokes about Costco. It's like you walk in there to buy bananas and you walk out with like cheese souffle cauliflower. You're like, what? I don't know, but it tasted really good and I bought it, right? Free samples are magical. So I said, where are people who have foot problems? And there was a dance studio down the street. There was a university athletic system down this, like the whole like athletic team was down the street. I was like, go to them on Tuesdays at 4. Offer to see some feet for free. Go see what happens. She's so booked. She's so booked. She's like, I can't see more patients. Why? Because she played. She's here to be a podiatrist. She's here to help people's feet. So get out there and help people's feet and watch what happens. And that's the space. That's finding the space, not looking at the objects. The object is, oh, everybody on Instagram's doing that. That would be like if I only saw my camera and I wasn't aware that my dog might bark in a second if the doorbell rings, right? Or I wasn't looking at you and paying attention to what we're doing, right? What a waste of a life. Look up. And that's step 3, by the way, is look up. Look up at all the space up above you and then notice everywhere that the sunshine hits. Notice everywhere. There's no lack of sunshine, ever. There's never a lack of sunshine. And I believe plants can be some of our biggest teachers because we're made of the same cells and molecules and nuclei that plants are, right? It's all the same. And if you watch a plant, if you move a plant in your house, it'll just move towards the sun. That's all it does. And if you move it, it'll move towards the sun that way. And that gentle turn that comes in to us with our conscious brain and our subconscious brain, that comes in through the question, what would be really fun today? That's the access point to abundance. That's how it comes in. That's how our lives start to change. And it's literally those little questions and the little turn to face the sun so it can nourish you. That's literally what it is. And then you nourish yourself, just like the podiatrist. Like I can't tell you how great she felt after that first meeting with all of the college students. She was so excited. And then the ballerinas and helping them with their feet once they're in toe shoes. She was ecstatic. And then because she served them, I was like, hey, I'll show up every Tuesday at 4. Not only did she have a line out the door then, but what do you think they all did? They were like, you have to go to her. She's freaking amazing.
Mm.
That's abundance. Her business went from I have to close to like, there's so much. I think we just have to be honest about the conversations we were born into and how they don't serve any of us. They just don't. It's all an illusion.
I'm still simmering on like I
It's
think
like,
so it's
is that helpful? Yeah.
yeah, it's so revolutionary to think about also just this idea of the white space and cultivating the abundance, and also finding opportunities that aren't like quote unquote on the linear path, but are, how do I add value? What are the kinds of companies, organizations, people, just the way that you think? It already tells me so much about the way that you think and how you guide your clients with thinking outside of the box in this way.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm
And it's
curious.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. What There's so much I want to talk to you about. And like, I'm like looking at my notes here. I'm like, wow, I've got like 10 other points here of angles that I'm so curious to hear your perspective on. But so then what is the fear? Actually, what is the fear then behind money? Because I feel many of us, this fear is that I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be taken care of. So how do you have
Mm.
any guidance or feedback as someone's implementing what you're teaching, and they're using this idea of, I'm going to think of the white space, I'm going to play, I'm going to turn towards the sun? How about the mindset component? And maybe
Yeah.
that's still around like putting the toes on the ground, but anything else that comes.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk specifically about the fear. Let's talk about that because I think it's sort of what I just said too. We're born into this world that has an ongoing conversation of scarcity. I like literally, you're born, they dry you off, and boom, through the osmosis comes what I think are three beliefs. This is a book I really recommend people read. It's called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. It's so great. And it was written in like the 80s. It holds so good. But there are three money myths that we're born into, scarcity myths. And one is there's not enough, which is complete BS. That is not real at all. And really founded by the patriarchy, which I'll talk about more in a minute, and the way that has us thinking linearly. I love what you just said. The path to success and financial abundance is not linear. People think it is. There you could do it linearly, but when you want like a quantum shift in what's happening in your life, it's rarely linear. But that's a patriarchal idea that you either have it or you don't, right? So there's not enough. What I always tell people is, if you've ever been at an amusement park, look in the garbage can and then tell me there's not enough food. Tell me there's not enough food. The United States of America makes enough food every day for each person in the United States to eat 5,000 calories. That's more than 2.5 times what any of us need to live. And yet people are hungry. Like, it's a lie. It's not being taken care of well, but it's not real. It's not real. And we come up against it when we start to believe this idea that money is finite. And I'll talk about that more. So, one of the myths is there's not enough. The second myth is more is better. This one is so nasty. And it's so nasty because no matter how much you make, no matter how many followers you have, no matter how big your house is, right? No matter how many pairs of Jimmy Choos you have, more is better. It is so nasty. And it's just not accurate. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I always laugh with clients. I'm like, if you ever like you got your dream home and you're in it, and then you're like, I don't know where my glasses are. When was the last time someone was in this room? Who's going to clean this plate? Like all of a sudden, the more that you wanted is a burden, right? Because you didn't actually want it. You just bought into the idea that more was better. So you ran towards it. And now you're like, I don't even really want this. So being aware that that can drive the show for any one of us, none of us get out without having that be part of the osmosis we inhale from the second we're born. More is better, more is better, more is better. And it's just not accurate. And we don't all want the same things. And so, sort of giving yourself permission to check in, I'm good, right? Like, I'm really good. Actually, I don't need to chase that. What would be fun? That allows you, as soon as you're aware of that myth, you can start to play in the space and the fun. And then the third myth is, and this is the one I actually think as a society we're starting to crack, which is kind of cool and kind of scary for all of us, right? And this myth is, well, that's just the way it is. And we know that's not true, right? Because how many times have we broken through something, right? As humans, right? We went to the freaking moon. You're not supposed to be able to leave this planet, right? Like, that's just the way it is. There's gravity. Well, or not, right? People can't run a 4-minute mile, or they can, right? And this idea that there's not enough and more is better, and that's the way it is, that's the way it is, keeps those cemented in. And so, what I challenge anybody listening to do is think beyond what you think is the way things are. Well, I have to have a corporate job because that's the way it is. Could be, maybe, sure. And how many people do you know that that's not the way it is? And they're okay. Okay, well, how did they do that? And now you're off to like, would that be fun? Oh my God, I would hate that. Right. And now you can start to assess for yourself where you fall in there. But once we start to alleviate these linear myths, right? No one can run a 4-minute mile. Oh, all of a sudden there's a quantum leap. Yes, we can. Wait a minute. So the patriarchal society we were born into that houses these three myths lives on a linear plane, right? You get a job, you get in this crazy country, you get health insurance because apparently you don't need that unless you have a body. Oh, wait. So then we do that. Then we pay our taxes and then we do the 401k. And then if you're lucky, you do the IRA and then you learn how to invest and you do the, right? That's a linear line. And if you're running a business, you know this line well, right? Like you get an influx of money. Oh, and then it's gone. And you're like, what just happened? Right. And you're like, I either have money or I don't. That's inaccurate. I know it feels that way, but that's inaccurate. Money actually goes in a cycle. It's a circle. It's a circle. So I'm going to give an example. I took my daughter to Disney World a couple months ago. We're crazy. We freaking love it there. We're nuts. And it was
Mhm.
her spring break. And I was like, you know what? Let's just freaking go. My older son was in college and I was like, let's just make it a girls trip. We flew first class. We stayed in our favorite place. We ate all the things. We had so much fun, right? Now,
Mm.
I took that money out of, one of my savings accounts. I paid cash for the whole thing. Now, I want to know, is that money that I used to pay for that trip, is it gone? Or did it go to the people who clean the hotels? And now they're using it in their families. Did it go to the architects who came up with the rides? Did it go to the people who keep the grounds? Did it go to the gardeners? Did it go to the chefs? Did it go to the servers? Did it go to the Imagineers who think stuff up? Did it go to the airplane pilot? Did it go to the people who served us? The chef who came up with the first course meal, the first class meals? It's still here. It's still circulating. And I'm so happy that I got to keep it in circulation for that, for something that made us so happy. And now it's this massive win-win-win, right? It's like everybody's winning. We got the experience of a lifetime. We are never going to forget that trip. We laughed so hard, right? So much joy. And I was so happy to move that money through this planet that way. And now those people are moving it through the planet in the way they want. And then their people are going to, and one of them may end up being a client and it comes right back in. It's circular. It didn't go anywhere. The other day I got my nails done and I gave my awesome lady, I love my lady, right? I love her so much. And I gave her the $5 tip for doing my nails and she put it in her pocket and counted it with her other money. Is that money gone? No, it's still here. It's still here. And when you start to get that, all of a sudden it's playful. And do you do wise things with it? Yeah, sure. I have investment accounts. I max out my IRA. I have a 401k for my business. I make sure my people get bonuses. Like, yeah, I take really good care of it. But boy, is it fun to move it around. And that's what it's designed to do. It's meant to flow. It's meant to bless every single person it touches. And I do that sometimes in my workshops or courses. I'll give $100 bill to someone in the front row and I have them pass it to the person to their right all the way down to the other side of the row. And then I pick it up again. I go, did this lose any value? Did this $100 bill lose any value on its journey? No, not a single. And it added value to every single person it touched. How glorious is that? What else does that except for maybe love? Right? Like we just share it and it just makes everybody happy along the way. And then it comes right back. And when we have that attitude about it, it's not that you go out and spend it like haphazardly. You become even more conscious of where you want to spend it. For example, this shirt I'm wearing, I got from ThredUp. I only buy clothes from ThredUp because there's enough clothes on this planet. We don't need more clothes, right? And I love it, right? It was like a $400 shirt. I got it for 40 bucks. I'm like, yes, right? It's so great. And I'm supporting all those jobs at ThredUp and I'm not contributing to the environmental. Like you see, like you get to really take care of it and love it and
Mm.
own it and enjoy it and then share its love and happiness with other people. And that's how we shift out of this patriarchal linear, I have it or I don't, to I'm somebody who's in the circle. I jump in the flow of money. I'm always in the flow of money. I love being in the flow of money. And it always comes in because I love sharing it. And it comes in because I'm giving value out. And when we start to kind of get into that, it's not so scary. And so I hope I answered your question about being scared around money is just we were born into these myths that don't make any sense. they're, they're such illusions. And we act like they're real. I hope that was helpful. Did that
I love
shift
that
it? Okay.
so much. I'm simmering on just this idea of you're shifting the paradigm of how we think about spending money and bringing it into the collective sphere of it's still here and it's going to all of these people and these people and these people and then this is how we uplift. I feel what you're speaking to also as an Aquarius. I feel this humanitarian. You're really uplifting the collective in this way when we think about it this way.
Mhm.
And now I don't want to take it to a negative turn, but I do want to know because you've spoken about this and I'm fascinated with this word codependence, given my work. And
Mm.
codependence is something, it's a pattern that's ingrained in us as human beings. And I am so selfishly curious to hear because I've seen you speak about it before how women or human beings in general can have codependencies with money. And I'm
Mm.
curious if there's anything that you have on that, though, that we can tease it to break some of those patterns.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this one hurts my heart. But I do speak about it mostly to women. Can it affect some men? Oh my gosh, of course. But given that we are in a patriarchal society, right? Men tend to get more support around money than women do. Men are expected to make more money. Men still do make more money, right? Like that's sort of still in that osmosis, right? And we have to recognize in the collective unconscious, women haven't been allowed to handle money, right? Until 50 years ago. Like you couldn't get your own credit card as a woman. You couldn't get a mortgage as a woman. Like you couldn't open a bank account as a woman. Like we were supposed to get handed from fathers to husbands, right? And they paid them to take care of us. Like women don't touch money, right? And we're still working through that, I believe, as humanity at large. And so we as women really need to recognize that that's going on. But there's something else that's pretty insidious. And it is the idea that our wants, needs, desires are inconvenient. And it starts very young. It's like, why are you crying? And boys they do have a version of this, like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about, right? Like there's that energy, but it's also, where's that pretty smile, right? Your upset is bothering me, stop it. And we're taught very early on that the way we behave, the way we perform dictates our worthiness. And that what's actually happening inside of us does not matter. And we shove it down and shove it down and shove it down and shove it down. And then because we're showing up for everyone else, we get accolades for that. Oh my God, she's so selfless. Like I hear that and I want to like she's lost herself and that's what we're rewarding. Like what? And on top of that, it is the invisible, unpaid work of women that makes society run. I mean, and anytime I teach somebody the word invisible work, they're like, oh my God, that's what it is. Making the lunches, doing the laundry, cleaning the beds, sweeping the floor, making sure the dogs walked and fed, making sure everybody's appointments are ready. Even at work, women take on this. Well, could you get the coffee? Whatever, right? Invisible, unpaid work that makes the world work for everyone else. And we get rewarded with that. You're amazing. God, you just keep it. You're just, don't have any feelings of your own though, because that will bother all of us. And it's this amazing reward system. And that's where the codependent piece comes in. But when we look at it around money, it can really mess with our heads unless we start to do this type of work. And having this conversation is literally part of it. I don't mean to make it sound like there's work. You have to be in this conversation and unwiring where you're still tripping up, right? Because of course you are. You were designed to not worry about yourself ever, right? So when we get into business or we start earning money in a salary, there's this, they paid me, I owe them everything. And now you've got codependency in your business or in your career. And that is yucky. That is like, and I see that happen when women are starting businesses. They're like, oh my God, somebody paid me. I have to give them every minute of every day, all the time, because we're so wired that if you're not doing it all for free and killing yourself doing it, it doesn't really count. And so that codependency right there. So we call it high performing codependence because we are all such high performers. I guarantee somebody listening to this podcast is a high performer. So it turns into high performing codependence. And it's not great, right? So in business, where I do a lot of work with women, and I hope this really sinks in for people, is understanding anyone you choose to work with, if you run your own business or they're paying you a salary, it just doesn't matter, right? Everyone's an adult. And part of this codependence piece is we think we have to fix everything for everyone. No, no, absolutely not. And then go back to the, oh, I only need 25 people a year. Well, then I don't care if people hate me on the internet. They're not my 25. And all of a sudden you start unhooking this codependent piece, right? And then when somebody chooses to work with you or chooses to hire you, they chose that. That's on them. And you show up and you do your work with full integrity, and that's on you. And one of the ways I talk about this, especially in entrepreneurship, is that those of us who've started businesses, especially heart-centered businesses like this, where I'm like, no, you can make a lot of money, it's okay, is that our agreement to teach, to share, to show up, to help people's feet, to make cream, to make cakes, whatever it is we're doing, right? That's our agreement with the universe, right? And the universe is what's guiding us to do that. And so I teach people, send the invoice to the universe, right? I'm going to show up and do my job and you take care of the money. Now, not magical thinking wise, right? Of course you still invoice people. Of course you get your paycheck. I mean that, but like those times when you take care of your mother-in-law and you're like, son of a gun, right? Send that invoice to the universe. When a client decides to work with you, they're an adult. They made that decision. You show up and say, universe, my agreement's with you. I'm going to show up with everything you've given me to show up with. You take care of the money. I've sent the invoice. You make sure that that gets handled for me in a way that serves the client, by the way. So everybody's happy. But now it's almost like the client's not paying you, the universe is. And that can lift that codependent piece so that we show up and actually do what we're here to do with full integrity, full heart, no strings attached, right? We give them everything we've got, but we still have energy. We're still maintained. We're still in integrity. We still have the time to be with our families and friends and make a beautiful living and circulate that money however we choose. And it just lightens the entire process and removes that feeling of codependence that really is usually specific to women.
Yeah. It's so interesting because also what I'm hearing from you say, Sarah, is, and it feels true in my body when I'm feeling it too. It's this idea of, because instead of codependence with people, this pressure of, oh, I owe this person my everything, it lightens that load when we say, okay, I'm doing this for the universe. Universe, you provide the money. I'm going to show up, but I don't need to overextend.
That's the ticket. Yeah.
Anything that you have as we like get closer to closing, I'm curious, you've spoken about confusion around money as it relates to time. And I'm wondering if you have anything around that. Um, yeah, around money and time and how maybe time impacts abundance and money and how we can, yeah, be more at easeful in this process of relating with money.
Oh, so fun. So I really like this. So both money and time are man-made. They're not real. I mean, I've never seen a squirrel who was late for a meeting, right? Like this is all made up, right? Which does give us tremendous power. However, most people have time and money confused. Most people think that money is finite and time is infinite. And it's actually the other way around. So we all get however many days we get, however many heartbeats we get, that's what we get. And that is finite in this body, in this specific body, that is finite. There will be an end. And money never ends. You can make as much money as you want whenever you want. And that sounds hard. I know in the world that we live in, that sounds like I'm being flippant or woo woo. But if you want to make money, solve a problem. And there are so many problems that need solving. People will pay you to get through something faster and with less pain, period. And so it doesn't matter if you're making curtains or someone's wedding cake, or you're great with kids, or you write incredible books, or you're really funny. It doesn't matter. You're solving a problem for people and they will happily pay you for that. Think about your own life. How many times you're so happy when you're like, let's say you're at the store or whatever, you're like, oh my God, that's so what I needed. I'm so happy I found this. And you give your money over with glee. You're like so happy because it solved a problem for you. So money's infinite. Money's infinite. You can make as much as you want. Now you have to heal in order to hold it. Let's be honest about that, right? And this is why people get rid of money when they have it, because they haven't healed to be able to hold the amount of energy it brings into your life. So that is part of the process of growing, but you can make as much as you want. It's all
Mhm.
here. It's been circulating around us while we've been talking all this time. It's all here. And
So I'm
your access point to it is fun and solving problems.
so in the work that you do, how do you take your clients through your flow, your program? Because I'm feeling you also work with the subconscious elements when you're working on someone's business goals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love this so much. So I have three ways that people work with me. One is the most popular is the Abundance Academy, and that is a year-long program because it takes a full year to completely rewire your being for abundance. And if someone's listening right now, I tend to come into people's lives when they're ready. Like they're like, I don't know how to make this happen, but I'm ready. I'm ready to start healing. I'm ready to start letting go of this. This is making sense to me. I show up. I don't know how. Thanks, universe, right? I just show up. So someone hears that in the Abundance Academy, they're like, yes, I want into the Abundance Academy. And then I also have one-on-one coaching. And what I do in the one-on-one is not a set program. I do you so you can do your business. That's
Mhm.
literally what I say. I'll look at you and be like, oh my God, did you do something? I don't know how this works. And I don't mean to be mysterious. I literally don't, but I'll look at someone and be like, did something happen when you were 8? And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But I can look at someone and see what's happening. Like there's something got planted without your permission. Thank you very much. And then you've been living your life like my 16-year-old self. That got
Mhm.
planted in me and I lived it out. I made it real. Right. And until I recognized that, I couldn't unmake it. And so the one-on-one coaching I love. I think people are like, you need to stop doing one-on-one coaching if you want. And I'm like, never. I love it so much. I love it. I love being with people. I love being on that journey with them. And then twice a year, I run a 12-week course called Effortless Sales. And effortless sales is a lot about a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, but it's also about how do you actually share? How do you actually do this without freaking out and getting weird? Because this
Mhm.
is not something we were taught, right? So, really going in, we do a lot of meditation. We do a lot of really practical, tactical things that people do in their business to start selling more. And the results are just fantastic. It's so exciting to see people go through that. It's just delicious.
Wow, this is fantastic. And I will, of course, put all this information too in the show notes for everyone that's like, oh, wow, I'm loving this conversation so much with Sarah. I want to be in her world. I want to learn from her. Where can folks find out about you and the work that you
Yeah.
do?
Well, you're on my podcast, the Game On Girlfriend podcast. And I call it the Game On Girlfriend because the game is on. This is not your practice life. I also have a YouTube channel. So you can go I do lots of like free teachings on YouTube. I love to do that. So the podcast and YouTube. I hang out on Instagram lightly. I don't do 3 hours a day, but I'm on Instagram. I really like being on Instagram. And then can I offer something to the audience that might be helpful?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So for this is one I found this to be really helpful for people. It's why I just started offering it. But I created something for my clients called the Freedom Calculator. And it helps you calculate, given your life, how much money you need to make in your business to feel free. And there's a whole training on it. And then there's marketing information and some ideas at the back end. It's a PDF and a video, and people love it. And so you can get that. It's at sarahwalton.com/freedom. And you can just go grab that and start to understand. Because again, now you're activating your conscious mind. Like, I need to hit that number. And then your subconscious mind starts to go, okay, how are we going to do that? It's just glorious. But once you have a target, your chances of hitting it are just so high. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. I will be checking that out myself. I love that so much, Sarah. And that will be in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you.
Oh my gosh,
And
it's such a joy. I'd follow you to the moon and back, woman.
gracias, gracias. And thank you, beautiful people, for tuning in with us today for this week's episode of Divine Union. We look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine. Ciao.